leggings made from human leg skin, Mary Hogan's face mask in a paper bag. Then Mary Hogan's skull in a box, Bernice Warden's entire head in a burlap sack, Bernice Warden's heart in a plastic bag in front of Gein's potbelly stove. Yo, he was gonna cook it in the potbelly. 9 vulvas in a shoebox. He's got 9 of them. What? A belt made from female human nipples. How do you get that many to make a belt out of it? Edward Gein, also known as the Butcher of Plainfield, was an American murderer, suspected serial killer, and body snatcher. Gein's crimes committed around his hometown of Plainfield, Wisconsin, gathered widespread notoriety in 1957 after authorities discovered that he had exhumed corpses from local graveyards and fashioned keepsakes from their bones and skin. Is this guy, well, clearly I was going to say, is this guy alright? Clearly this guy is not alright. He also confessed to killing 2 women, tavern owner Mary Hogan in 1954 and hardware store owner Bernice Warden in 1957. Yo, operating in the 50s is a diabolical for this guy. It's so, don't get mad at me. You know who he looks like to me? You never seen them in the same room. Gein was initially found unfit to stand trial and confined to a mental health facility. By 1968, he was judged competent to stand trial. He was found guilty of the murder of Warden, but was found legally insane and thus was remanded to a psychiatric institution. Gein died at Mendota Mental Health Institute from respiratory failure resulting from lung cancer on July 26, 1984, at the mere age of 77. Yo, he was just entering his prime, bro. Wow, 1957. You're operating on different wavelengths back then. Edward Theodore Gein was born in La Crosse, Wisconsin on August 27, 1906. The second of 2 sons to George Philip Gein and Augusta, what is that? Wilhelmine. Whoa! Gein had an older brother named Henry. Augusta, who was fervently religious and nominally Lutheran. What? Yo, that's like Slytherin IRL. Frequently preached to her sons about the innate immorality of the world, the evil of drinking, and her belief that all women were naturally promiscuous and instruments of the devil. Yo, she sounds like she'd be mad fun at a party, huh? She reserved time every afternoon to read to them from the Bible, usually selecting verses from the Old Testament and the book of Revelation concerning death, murder, and divine retribution. Gein idolized and became obsessed with his mother. What does that mean, dude? This is crazy. George Gein worked as a carpenter, tanner, and in the city fire department. What does that tanner mean? Like Danny Tanner? He also owned a local grocery shop, but soon sold the business and left the city with his family to live on a 155-acre farm in the town of Plainfield, Wisconsin, which became their permanent residence. Augusta took advantage of the farm's isolation by turning away outsiders who would have, or could have, influenced her sons. Yo, don't be turning them away. What is this shit? 1930 U.S. Census with Gein. Gein left the farm only to attend school. Outside of school, he spent most of his time doing chores on the farm. Gein was shy. Classmates and teachers remembered him as having strange mannerisms, such as seemingly random laughter, as if he were laughing at his own personal jokes. That's not that crazy though, what the hell, everyone does that. Augusta punished Gein whenever he tried to make friends, according to family acquaintances. Despite his poor social and development, Gein did fairly well in school, particularly in reading. Okay, bro. Alright, you gotta make something for yourself in this world, Mr. Gein. You ain't leaving the farm, Rick. You ain't leaving it.
I said I'm better for Lori than you, Rick. On April 1st, 1940, Gein's father died of heart failure at age 66. That's so young. Gein and his brother Henry began doing odd jobs around town to help cover the living expenses. The brothers were generally considered reliable and honest by the rest of the community. While both worked as handymen, Gein also frequently babysat for neighbors. He enjoyed babysitting, seeming to relate more easily to children than adults. What a motherfucker, dude.
So Henry began dating a divorced woman, mother of two, and planned to move in with her. He worried about his brother's attachment to their mother and often spoke ill of her around Gein, who responded with shock and hurt. On May 16, 1944, Gein was burning away marsh vegetation on the property. The fire got out of control, drawing the attention of the local fire department. By the end of the day, the fire had been extinguished and the firefighters gone. Gein reported Henry missing. With lanterns and flashlights, a search party searched for 43-year-old Henry, whose dead body was found laying face down. Apparently, Henry had been dead for some time, and it appeared that the cause of death was heart failure, since he had not been burned or injured otherwise. Oh, I thought we were about to go dark with it. I thought we were about to see Edward Gein and hit him, whack him in the back of the dome with a mallet or something, get him out of here. It was later reported by biographer Harold Schechter that Henry had bruises on his head. Bro, what was I just saying? This is it. This is getting Philly foul play. Police dismissed the possibility of foul play, and the county coroner later officially listed asphyxiation as the cause of death. Are you sure about that? The authorities accepted the accident theory, but no official investigation was conducted, and an autopsy was not performed. Yeah, why would you do that, huh? Questioning Gein about the death of Bernice Warden in 1957, state investigator Joe Wolfowski brought up questions about Henry's death. Yeah, he ain't buying it. George Arndt, who studied the case, wrote that, in retrospect, it was possible and likely that Henry's death was the Cain and Abel aspect of this case. What the fuck does that mean? In the biblical book of Genesis, Cain and Abel are the first two sons of Adam and Eve. Cain, the firstborn, was a farmer, and his brother Abel was a shepherd. The brothers made sacrifices, each from his own fields, to God. God had regard for Abel's offering, but had no regard for Cain's. Dude, that's crazy. With Henry deceased, Ed and Augusta were now alone. Augusta had a paralyzing stroke shortly after Henry's death, and Ed devoted himself to taking care of her. Sometime in 1945, he later recounted he and his mother visited a man named Smith, who lived nearby, to purchase straw. According to Ed, Augusta witnessed Smith beating a dog. A woman inside the Smith residence came outside and yelled for him to stop, but Smith beat the dog to death. Yo, he needs to be put to death now. Augusta was extremely upset by this scene. However, what bothered her did not appear to be the brutality toward the dog, but rather the presence of a woman. Yo, she is toxic, bro. She's toxic. He's over there strangling a German Shepherd, and she's like, who's that? Augusta told Ed that the woman was not married to Smith, and so she had no business being there, and angrily called her Smith's harlot. She had a second stroke soon after, and her health deteriorated rapidly. Augusta died on December 29, 1945, at the age of 67. Ed was devastated by her death. In the words of Schechter, he had lost his only friend and one true love, and he was absolutely alone in the world. Oh, this is where everything goes downhill, bro. Gein held on to the farm and earned money from odd jobs. He boarded up rooms used by his mother, including the upstairs, downstairs parlor, and the living room, leaving them untouched. While the rest of the house became increasingly squalid, these rooms remained pristine. Gein lived thereafter in a small room next to the kitchen. Around this time, he became interested in reading pulp magazines and adventure stories, particularly those involving cannibals or Nazi atrocities, specifically concerning Eil Koch, who had been accused of selecting tattooed prisoners for death in order to fashion lampshades and other items from their skin. So I had heard about this guy being the inspiration. I don't know if they said behind the Scream movies, but he was the inspiration for, I think, at least Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is wild, if that's true, which, just judging by that, I think that might be the route we're going, so let's see. Gein received a farm subsidy from the federal government starting in 1951. He occasionally worked for the local municipal road crew and crop threshing crews in the Plainfield area. Sometime between 1946 and 1956, he also sold an 80-acre parcel of land that Henry owned. Well, Henry don't own it no more, bro. Confirmed crimes. Bro, just say atrocities. How about that? Crimes against humanity. Not to be confused with the cards against them. On the morning of November 16th, 1957, 58-year-old Plainfield hardware store owner Bernice Warden disappeared. Where'd she go? The hardware store's truck was seen driving out from the rear of the building at around 9:30 a.m. The hardware store saw few customers the entire day. Some area residents believed that this was because of deer hunting season. Warden's son, Deputy Sheriff Frank Warden, entered the store around 5 p.m. to find the cash register open and bloodstains on the floor. Frank Warden told investigators that on the evening before his mother's disappearance, Gein had been in the store and was expected to return the next morning for a gallon of antifreeze. You don't need a gallon of antifreeze. A sales slip for the antifreeze was the last receipt written by Warden on the morning that she disappeared. Are you kidding me? You can't just buy up all the antifreeze and then dip, and that's the last thing that's going to be on record. You got to let some other poor sap come in and buy some syrup or something. That evening, Gein was arrested at a West Plainfield grocery store, and the Washara County Sheriff's Department searched the Gein farm. Yo, we're going to find her. We're going to find her. We're going to bring her back, is what we're going to do. Oh, that's the wrong button. A sheriff's deputy discovered Warden's decapitated body in a shed on the Gein's property, hung upside down by her legs with a crossbar at her ankles and ropes at her wrists. The torso was dressed out like a deer. She had been shot with a .22 caliber rifle, and the mutilations were made after her death. Searching the house, authorities found a whole human bones and fragments, a wastebasket made of human skin covering several chairs, skulls on his bedposts, female skulls, some with tops spawn off, bowls made from human skulls. Bro, there's literally a fucking line. There's a line where he goes, we'll use your head for a soup bowl or something. Your leggings made from human leg skin, masks made from the skin of female heads, Mary Hogan's face mask in a paper bag, then Mary Hogan's skull in a box, Bernice Warden's entire head in a burlap sack, Bernice Warden's heart in a plastic bag in front of Gein's potbelly stove. Yo, he was gonna cook it in the potbelly. 9 vulvas in a shoebox. How you get him? Yo, he's got 9 of them. What? A young girl's dress in the vulvas of 2 females judged to have been about 15 years old. Oh my God, bro. A belt made from female human nipples. How do you get that many to make a belt out of it? How does he do this? 4 noses. Got your nose. A pair of lips on a window shade drawstring. A lampshade made from the skin of a human face. Fingernails from female fingers. Oh, man. Yeah, no, this is Texas Chainsaw shit. I can see how that gets made based on this story. Oh, man. These artifacts were photographed at the state crime laboratory and then decently disposed of. When questioned, Gein told investigators that between 1947 and 1952, he had made as many as 40 nocturnal visits to 3 local graveyards to exhume recently buried bodies while he was in a daze-like state. Oh my God, this guy needs a hobby. I mean, he'll probably tell me that this is his hobby, but no, like shit like this ain't a hobby. Come on now. I'm talking more like go jump and rope, go on a run. This guy's out there fucking grave robbing, doing worse. On about 30 of those visits, he said that he came out of the daze while in the cemetery, left the grave in good order, and returned home empty-handed. He's like, shucks. Oh no. On the other occasions, he dug up the graves of recently buried middle-aged women he thought resembled his mother, and took the bodies home, where he tanned their skins to make them paraphernalia? What does that mean? Paraphernalia.
refers to the collection of items or equipment associated with a particular activity, hobby, or lifestyle. This isn't a hobby. The term is often used to describe the tools, accessories, or objects that are used in various fields such as sports, arts and crafts, or specialized professions.
Gein admitted to stealing from 9 graves and led investigators to their locations. Alan Willemboski of the State Crime Laboratory participated in opening 3 test graves identified by Gein. The caskets were inside wooden boxes. The top boards ran crossway, not lengthwise. The tops of the boxes were about 2 feet below the surface of the sandy soil. Gein had robbed the graves soon after the funerals while the graves were not completed. The test graves were exhumed because authorities were uncertain as to whether the slight Gein was capable of single-handedly digging up a grave during a single evening. So they're just underestimating him. They think he's a goofball McGee, and he doesn't have that dog in him. Oh no, he does. I'll tell you that.
They were found as Gein described.
One casket was empty. Another casket was empty but contained a few bones and Gein's crowbar. You can't leave your own crowbar in there, dude. In the final casket saw most of the body missing, yet Gein had returned rings and some body parts. How nice of him. Thus, Gein's confession was largely corroborated, unfortunately, right? Dude, this is crazy. This is crazy.
Soon after his mother's death, Gein began to create a woman's suit so that he could become his mother. Yo, he's like Jason Voorhees too. I wonder if the story, if any of that is kinda...
This helped influence, because yet again, people were saying it influenced multiple horror movie franchises, villains, whichever. Texas Chainsaw, I know, was definitely one. To literally crawl in her skin. He denied having sex with the bodies he exhumed, explaining they smelled too bad. During State Crime Laboratory interrogation, Gein also admitted to shooting 51-year-old Mary Hogan, a tavern owner missing since December 8th of 1954, whose head was found in his house, but he later denied memory of the details of her death. Yo, what a jackass, bro. You kidding me? A 16-year-old youth whose parents were friends of Gein's and who attended baseball games and movies with him, reported that Gein kept shrunken heads in his house, which he had described as relics sent by a cousin who had served in the Philippines during World War II. Alright, even still, if I don't care if my cousin from the Philippines during World War II sending me shrunken heads and shit, because then I'd be assuming they're real. Back then, people were built different.
Upon investigation by the police, these were determined to be human facial skins, carefully peeled from the corpses and used by Gein as masks. This is literal Texas Chainsaw behavior. This is crazy town, USA. Population, this guy. During questioning, Sheriff Art Schley reportedly assaulted Gein by banging his head in the face and face into a brick wall. As a result, Gein's initial confession was ruled inadmissible. Schley died of heart failure in 1968 at age 43. How are all these people dropping dead of heart failure at like age 40? I guess it's the 50s. It is a different time. Before Gein's trial, that's when she dropped. Or he, whatever. Many who knew Schley said he was traumatized by the horror of Gein's crimes, and this, along with the fear of having to testify, especially about assaulting Gein, caused his death. So he was just stressing to the max, bro. That's crazy. Suspected. Who suspected? In addition to the murders of Hogan and Warden, Gein was also considered regarding several other unsolved cases in Wisconsin. In November of 1957, authorities confronted Gein with the list of missing persons cases that had occurred between the death of his mother and Warden. Their suspicions were further aroused after the discovery of Hogan's remains. However, lie detector tests exonerated Gein and any other murders, and his psychiatrists concluded that his violence was only directed to women who physically resembled his mother. This is so Jason Voorhees vibe mixed with, yeah, Texas Chainsaw. Georgia Jean Weckler,
8, disappeared near her farm home in Fort Atkinson at approximately 3:30 p.m. on May 1st of 1947.
she was given a lift home from grade school in Jefferson by a neighbor who dropped Weckler off at the lane that led from US Highway 12 to the Weckler farm. Weckler was last seen pausing to open the family mailbox and removing a stack of mail. Witnesses reported seeing a dark-colored, possibly black, 1938 Ford sedan with a gray plastic spotlight in the vicinity that afternoon. Gein owned a black 1937 Ford, yeah. There's no coincidences out here, people. I mean, come on. Evelyn Grace Hartley, 14, went missing while babysitting a 20-month-old girl at the home of La Crosse State College professor Viggo Rasmussen on the evening of October 24, 1953. That evening, her father Richard called the Rasmussen house several times after she failed to check in as planned at 8:30 p.m. He received no answer. Concerned, he drove to the Rasmussen house to find the doors were locked, the lights and radio on, and items scattered all over the house. The living room furniture had been moved around to different places, as were Evelyn's school books. Richard found her shoes in different rooms, one shoe upstairs and one downstairs. He also found his daughter's broken glasses upstairs. Richard did not find Evelyn in the house. After his arrest, Gein was questioned regarding Evelyn's disappearance. However, he denied involvement in the disappearance and passed 2 lie detector tests. Police found no trace of Evelyn's remains during a search of Gaines's property. That's crazy. So then, like, what the hell? There's someone else out there that's sinister that did that? If he didn't really do it, but it's like, if he's admitting to all the other weird crap that he's done, why, like, yet again, I don't think there's any rationale behind some of these guys, at least. But, like, why would he lie about that particular case? I don't know, but I don't know if there's any method to their madness. Victor Harold Travis, 42. A resident of Adams County went off to hunt deer in the company of acquaintance Raymond Burgess on November 1st, 1952. In the late afternoon, the pair stopped for refreshments at Mac's Bar in Plainfield for several hours. At around 7 p.m., they both left the bar, got into Burgess's car, and drove away. The hunters, along with the car Burgess was driving, were never seen again, and no trace of them was ever found. Travis and Burgess had been hunting on the farm next to Gaines's farm, despite his objections to them hunting on the day of their disappearance. In addition, Gein has also been tentatively linked to the June 1954 disappearance of neighbor James Walsh, 32. Walsh and his wife lived near Gein, who performed chores for her after her husband went missing. Gein was also investigated for potential involvement in the August 1956 disappearance of Irene Keating, age 30, who was last seen in Plainfield, and in the attempted abduction of Judy Roddingcall, 16, from Auroraville. He's just on our... This is insane. Wisconsin. Why does Wisconsin... Didn't we read another true crime about one of them being from Wisconsin? Where was Jeffrey Dahmer at? On November 21st, 1957, Gein was arraigned on 1 count of first-degree murder in Waushara County Court, where he pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. Oh, shut the fuck up, dude. You kidding me? Shut up. Do us all a favor, please. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and found mentally incompetent, thus unfit for trial. I mean, he wasn't fucking unfit for butchering all those people, though. What are you talking about? He was sent to the Central State Hospital for the Criminally Insane, a maximum security facility in Waupun, and later transferred to the Mendota State Hospital in Madison. In 1968, doctors determined Gein was mentally able to confer with counsel and participate in his defense. I don't know how you're gonna defend any of that shit, bro. The trial began on November 7th, 1968, and lasted 1 week. A psychiatrist testified that Gein had told him that he did not know whether the killing of Warden was intentional or accidental. What are you talking about? Gein had told him that while he examined the gun in Warden's store, the weapon discharged and killed Warden. He said he had not aimed the rifle at Warden and did not remember anything else that happened the morning. I can't roll my eyes any harder. At the request of the defense, Gein's trial was held without a jury, with Judge Robert H. Gallmar presiding. Gein was found guilty by Gallmar on November 14th. A second trial dealt with Gein's sanity. After testimony by doctors for the prosecution and defense, Gallmar ruled Gein not guilty by reason of insanity and ordered him committed to Central State Hospital for the criminally insane. Throw him away by his ugly bootstraps. Lock the key away. That's it. Judge Gallmar wrote, due to prohibitive costs, Gein was tried for only one murder, that of Miss Warden. He also admitted to killing Mary Hogan. What? The fate of Gein's property. Dude, this is crazy shit. Gein's house, the outbuildings, and his 195-acre property were appraised at $4,700, equivalent to about $51,000 in 2024. Really? Dude, 195 acres is huge. But then again, it's in the middle of, like Wisconsin. Like, who the hell actually wants that? His possessions were scheduled to be auctioned on March 30th, 1958. Amidst rumors that the house and the land it stood on might become a tourist attraction. Early on in the morning of March 20th, the house was destroyed by a fire. A deputy fire marshal reported that a garbage fire had been set 75 feet from the house by a cleaning crew who was given the task of disposing refuse. That hot coals were recovered from the spot of the bonfire, but that the fire did not spread along the ground from the location to the house. Arson was suspected. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, all this is too convenient. If it's in 195 acres, the fuck? Arson was suspected, but the cause of the fire was never officially determined. It is possible that the fire was not considered a matter of urgency to Fire Chief Frank Warden, the son of Gein's victim, Bernice Warden. Yeah, dude, he probably is the one who fucking did it. He's the one that's got to put the fire out. If he puts the fire out, he don't want to put it out. Gein learned of the incident while in detention. He shrugged and said, just as well. Gein's Ford sedan, which he used to haul the bodies of his victims, was sold at public auction for $760, equivalent to $8,300 in 2024. Yeah, that's a good deal. To Carnival sideshow operator Bernie Gibbons. Yo, the Carnival fucking sideshow now owns the Gein's mobile. What the hell? Gibbons charged Carnival goers 25 cents admissions to see it. The thing is, I would pay 25 cents to see it. I mean, let's be honest. The death. Wow, Edward Gein, 1906 to 1984. Gein's vandalized grave markers as it appeared in 1999 before thieves stole it. Yo, they stole it, dude? Gein died at the Mendota Mental Health Institute due to respiratory failure. Yo, everyone who's even breathed near this guy has died of respiratory failure. Secondary to lung cancer on July 26, 1984, at the age of 77. Over the years, souvenir seekers chipped away pieces from his gravestone until the stone itself was stolen in 2000. It was recovered in June 2001 near Seattle, Washington, and was placed in storage at the Washoe County Sheriff's Department. Gein is interred between his parents and brother in Plainfield Cemetery. His gravesite now unmarked, but not unknown. Holy crap, dude. How do you... first of all, that's a big rock. Headstone, gravestone, whatever, to be stealing and hauling off like that is probably the Carnival guy. You're gonna need that van he bought to be carrying that shit. Gein's story had a lasting effect on American pop culture, as evidenced by its numerous appearances in film, music, and literature. The tale first came to a widespread public attention in the fictionalized version presented by Robert Bloch in his 1959 suspense novel, Psycho. In addition to Alfred Hitchcock's 1960 film Bloch's novel, Psycho. Gein's story was loosely adapted into numerous films including Deranged, In the Light of the Moon, Ed Gein, The Butcher of Plainfield, Ed Gein the Musical, and the Rob Zombie film House of a Thousand Corpses, and its sequel, The Devil's Rejects. Gein served as the inspiration for myriad fictional serial killers, most notably Norman Bates, Leatherface, Buffalo Bill, Garland Green, and the character of Dr. Oliver Thredson in the TV series American Horror Story. Holy crap, dude. American filmmaker Errol Morris and German filmmaker Werner Herzog attempted unsuccessfully to collaborate on a film project about Gein from 1975 to 1976. Morris claimed to have interviewed Gein several times and ended up spending almost a year in Plainfield interviewing dozens of locals. The pair planned secretly to exhume Gaines's mother from her grave to test a theory, but never followed through on the scheme, and eventually ended their collaboration. Yeah, that's a little bizarre. The aborted project was described in the 1989 New Yorker profile of Morris. Gein's story inspired American grunge band Tad to write a song, Nipple Belt, for their 1989 album, God's Balls. Gein also inspired American thrash metal band Slayer to write the song Dead Skin Mask for their 1990 album. Alright, so this is just a bunch of hoopla. Patrick Bateman, American Psycho. That's crazy. Dude, we still gotta do a video on Psycho. This was a crazy one. This was a obviously crazy one. I even just saw, it's weird how the world works in terms of coincidences, but it's like, I've been planning to do this video for a little bit now, and then I literally just saw a day ago Netflix is doing one of their documentary style things, like on this guy, kind of like how they did with Jeffrey Dahmer. Some type of Netflix big project they're doing for Ed Gein. Yeah, the going into the graves and stealing shit and all that, and him denying doing anything intimate with the corpses. It's crazy to even say. I don't know if I believe that. That might be one detail that he would want to leave out if he's even somewhat like capable in his brain. Oh god, this is just fucking crazy to even fathom this stuff goes on. But guys, if you've been enjoying any of the content lately and would like to get access to some Patreon exclusives or the full-length reactions to any of the movies or TV shows I've done, or you want to get the next video I did a Reddit horror story about a possessed roller coaster in an amusement park. This kid's the ride operator, and the boss is always there's always like a roller coaster under construction, and the boss is like, no, never go near it. But he always sees like someone in the roller coaster, and he's thinking that's like a dummy or something when they're just testing it, sending the dummy on the track. It goes crazy. It takes a crazy turn. But that's also up on Patreon. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and that's it. Appreciate you guys. I will see you in the next one.